From saying good morning, early morning to good night at night, we're all used to WhatsApp. Exchanging messages, checking feed, getting the latest information, talking to friends. But is your data safe on WhatsApp? All of you must also be receiving that message from WhatsApp about a new privacy policy, asking you to accept. Well, 8th of February is the deadline. But before that 8th February deadline, there are cybersecurity experts who warn that this new WhatsApp privacy policy could be unsafe. Why? According to some experts, your banking information stored in your mobile phone, the use of your credit card, the use of your debit card, your travel, information about your mobile phone hardware, its signal, battery life, and a lot more could stand compromised. Not only will WhatsApp have this information, but WhatsApp will share this information with Facebook and other companies. Are you willing or not? Let's find out.
WhatsApp triggers privacy scare in India. WhatsApp's separate privacy policies for Europe and India. Are Indian users' data compromised? Come February 8th, WhatsApp users in India will have no other option than sharing data with Facebook and other group platforms. But the social messaging platform has different yardstick for Europe. WhatsApp Europe's Director of Policy, Niam Sweeney, says there are no changes to WhatsApp's data sharing practices in Europe. It remains the case that WhatsApp does not share user data with Facebook. Why this double standard by WhatsApp on data protection?
To understand how GDPR protects the right of EU citizens, we need to understand that GDPR has a lot of provisions, which includes right to erasure of data, right to portability, right to deletion of the data, etc. Whereas when we talk about this in Indian context, we don't have any similar rights. Though these provisions have been imbibed in the data protection legislation, they're still absent.
There is a stark difference between data protection laws in Europe and India. The General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR in Europe, is a well-defined law which allows businesses to only collect essential information. But in India, current laws under Section 43(8) of IT Act lack clarity and enforcement mechanism.
As of now, we do not have any specific legislation governing data protection. What we have is a piecemeal legislation in form of Information Technology Act. Way forward definitely would be coming up with a very robust data protection legislation and an equally effective data protection authority.
As per the GDPR, those found guilty of data breach face penalty of 20 million euros or 4% of annual global turnover of the company. But in India, a user has to prove that his or her data has been collected without permission. In 2017, Facebook was fined 110 million euros by the European Commission for misleading it about 2014 takeover of WhatsApp. This after the panel found that the Facebook staff were aware about the possibility of linking WhatsApp phone numbers with Facebook users' identities. In 2019, the centre introduced the Personal Data Protection Bill in Parliament.
Bill to provide for protection of the privacy of individuals relating to their personal data, specify the flow and uses of personal data, create relations of trust between persons and entities.
The bill is still pending before the Joint Parliamentary Panel. With Ankit Kumar, Bureau Report, India Today.
So the bill is with JPC, but the requirement for an act is now because 8th of February is the deadline. Do we have reason to be concerned? We'll speak to our experts. But before that, let's do a quick check of what are laws in Europe, how companies like Facebook have been fined in one instance 110 million euros. And that's a huge fine. And that's why in the European region, they're better protected. Users are better protected, unlike India. So let's just do a quick comparison. The General Data Protection Regulation in Europe ensures that consumers have right on their data. In India, it's Section 43 of the IT Act that actually asks businesses to adopt a clear policy to protect consumer data. 2. Users have the right to restrict access to information in Europe. So it's the end user who reserves the right on what information needs to be provided on platforms like either Facebook or WhatsApp. In India, that privilege is not there with the user. In the European region, users can withdraw their consent of access both to Facebook and to WhatsApp. In India, that is not the case. The European privacy laws have provision of huge penalties, 20 million euros in one instance on business enterprises, on any business enterprise that's been found to be guilty of violation of users' privacy. In India, we are still waiting for the new law to be debated and then adopted. Let me now bring in our experts, and let's quickly bring in Pawan Duggal. He's one of India's best known voices on cybersecurity. Pawan Duggal joins us. Saira Shah Halim is a social media influencer. She's a user of WhatsApp. Is she concerned? We'll try and find that out. Vaibhav Agrawal is the president of Yuva India Foundation. We'll also try and get the Congress Party representative in a while from now. But Pawan Duggal, in your appreciation, the new privacy policy of WhatsApp, is it a cause for concern? If so, why?
The new privacy policy of WhatsApp is a cause of massive concern. These are the alarm bells that are ringing, provided we have the ears to hear these bells. These bells are telling us for the first time that WhatsApp is now going to share your sensitive personal data, not just with Facebook, but Facebook group of companies, but in addition, also with independent third parties, business partners, and service providers. So lo and behold, all kind of transaction data pertaining to all transactions that you will do on WhatsApp will now automatically be shared with service providers and legal entities across the world so that they can target you, hound you, violate your privacy at will. And more significantly, there is no accountability. The massive number of advertisements on the newspapers haven't really said anything new. The exact text of the privacy policy, which is going to come into effect from 8th of February 2021, continues as it is. I think this is a time where WhatsApp has potentially put a threat to about 40 crore odd Indian users, telling them, you either sign on the dotted line, agree to my privacy policy, or vacate my platform. I think this is unilateral. It's in gross violation of the Indian Information Technology Act and the rules and regulations made
you say it's unilateral, it's in gross violation. And it's incorrect. I mean, India is one of the biggest users of WhatsApp. 40 crore users of WhatsApp in India, and you have WhatsApp telling India or telling Indian users, you either accept or get out of the platform. Saira Shah Halim, you heard Pawan Duggal there. As a user of WhatsApp, are you concerned?
Yeah, definitely, Gaurav, because this is an infringement of your personal life to liberty as well as your privacy. Article 21 under the Indian Constitution gives that right to every citizen of India. Unfortunately, it is being infringed upon, and I think it's time that the government should not get bullied by these social media giants just because they use these social media giants for election campaigning. So yes, they are direct consumers of these social media sites. However, like I said, nothing is constant and no one is infallible. We had Orkut, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And then we had Facebook. Now we have WhatsApp, we have Twitter, we have so many other social media platforms. So today, if WhatsApp feels that it is indefensible or it is infallible, the consumers will switch to some other social media site. But the infringement on the personal privacy,
some have already started switching to Signal and others. That's very important. That's very important. You say that personal privacy is more important and it has to be a two-way street. WhatsApp cannot just dictate terms and command Indians either to accept or get out of the platform. Dr. Ajay Kumar of the Congress Party joins me on the broadcast. And Dr. Ajay Kumar, I want you to wear two hats today. In fact, both your hats. One, as a political leader. Two, as a former police officer, as a former IPS officer. And in your appreciation, sir, you know, users like Saira Shah Halim or you and I, we can simply not accept and get out of WhatsApp. Is that an option, or is it time for the government to step in and rein in WhatsApp into accepting Indian laws and not just what WhatsApp wants to do, sir?
So, Gaurav, couple of issues. First of all, I totally agree with Pawanji and Sairab also on what they have said. The interesting thing is that the European Union has a much tougher, bar or standard, which WhatsApp, the Facebook group of companies is complying with. So, to adding insult to an injury, what they are saying is that, hey, by the way, we have higher standards for the European, for the EU, and for India, we can be very flexible in terms of the privacy protection. WhatsApp came, that is the first part. The second part is WhatsApp came with a clarification that it doesn't affect your personal account, it is to do with business account. But so many business accounts deal with individuals in terms of doing work. So when you are in connection with the business account, would you know if you're dealing with, suppose, Amazon, or you're dealing with Flipkart, or you're dealing with anybody, would you want the data to be public so that Facebook can, then micro-target you? That's the second. The third part is the larger debate apart from Facebook is the India's data protection. So it is very critical for the government to step in. It's gone to the standing committee, but I think this government has shown reasonable alacrity in bringing ordinances. So I'm not saying ordinance is the route, it needs much more debate. But I think the Justice Sri Krishna's recommendations on a personal data protection act, bill is quite encompassing. And wise men like Pawan Dugal would be more better equipped on the nitty-gritties of it. But it's critically important for the government to immediately step in. Ask first of all the Facebook.
Before I bring in Vaibhav Agrawal, Pawan Dugal, in your appreciation, okay, there is this February 8 deadline, and you are saying that a lot of information is compromised or could get compromised and not just stay with WhatsApp, but be sold out. The information could be mined and then sold out to third-party users, and that could be a cause for concern. I would want you to elaborate on that in just a moment, but before that, should India have moved faster? It's with JPC. Is that the best route to take? Should this be dealt with on priority in the budget session of Parliament? Pawan Dugal.
I think the government has to quickly wake up. Already the clock is ticking. The people are getting a feeling that the government is not doing what it ought to be doing. Look, here is a big multinational who does not have office in the country, who wants to take the cream of the Indian market, who wants to generate the monies out of the Indian market, but yet does not want to comply with Indian law. For example, right now its proposed amended privacy policy is in direct contravention and violation of not just the Information Technology Act 2000, but also the Information Technology Rules 2011. And mind you, WhatsApp is an intermediary. It's required under law to exercise due diligence while it discharges its obligations. It's required to implement and maintain reasonable security practices and procedures when it's dealing, handling, or processing sensitive personal data of people. In this case, the problem is they are now going to make all the things public pertaining to your transaction details, which is your monetary details, your credit card, debit card numbers, your transaction details, your location, your internet protocol addresses, which is completely not what the law wants. Now, here is a big company telling India, look, I care two hoots about you and your law, and I will do what I really want to do. Now, is that the kind of an approach that we need to just keep on bearing up with? Or I think India needs to stand unitedly and say, look,
Vaibhav Agrawal, is that the kind of approach that India wants? That government can do nothing, or government chooses to do nothing, or at least as of now, the government appears to be doing little to protect the interests of users, and some perhaps would blindly be accepting, I accept, and the moment they accept, they click on I accept, there is nothing that anyone can do, because then it's a contract between that individual and that company WhatsApp. There's no law that can protect that individual subsequently, Vaibhav Agrawal.
Gaurav, thanks. I think it was best and appropriate that I came in the last. Now, let me tell you this. As far as the ruling party is concerned, the BJP, or the government is concerned, the Modi government, it's India first through and through. It's nation first through and through. And while we talk of nation first, we have to acknowledge and accept that WhatsApp has an Indian office. WhatsApp is an Indian registered entity. And just last year, or the year last, in 18, we forced our hand on WhatsApp as a private capitalist entity to have an ombudsperson situated in India. And I think that was the first step in showing everyone else who are the larger corporations dealing with our data on a regular basis that, listen, we are not to be taken lightly. We are Indians. Yes, we may take a while to study your antics and act accordingly, but I think it is too early for all of us to comment like that. And I also need to point out that whoever wants to speculate that they are getting access to our banking data or any other data, that is absolutely an irresponsible statement, because WhatsApp is about communications, not about banking. They may have a banking RBI license, but that's governed by certain other laws. The set of laws. Law cannot be read in a straight line.
Hold on. The devil lies in the detail. The devil lies in the detail. What all information will they automatically get from your system, sir? Read the privacy policy, sir. And Pawan Dugal, WhatsApp may not have your banking data, whether you share it on WhatsApp or not, but that's information they glean out of your system, if I understand that correctly. Pawan Dugal.
See, please, let's
and Ajay after that, but Pawan Dugal first, please.
Let's only go by the wordings of what's given in the privacy policy. The amended privacy policy talks about transaction details, including transaction amounts, including the payment methodologies and the payment details. Payment details automatically include the way I'm going to make payment to you using WhatsApp or any other mechanism, whether it's a credit card or debit card or an internet banking transfer. If that's the position that they want to actually go ahead and share with others without following the requirements of the information technology, reasonable security practices and procedures, and sensitive personal data or information rules 2011, then I think they're giving a message that we don't care about India, we don't care about Indians, we are not bothered about Indian law, and even if the Indian law requires me to do something, I will not do that.
And you have to read the fine print. Information that's stored on your handset. Yes. And Dr. Ajay Kumar, as a police officer, as a former police officer, so when they say privacy is in our DNA, but this is what the fine print says, this does appear to be misleading perhaps a viewer or a reader who may not be reading the fine print, sir.
No, so I think Baba was wrong on and totally off the page. Look, the preface on being India first and all is fine for rhetoric, but the fact is, how is it India first if European Union has got a standard which says that the WhatsApp can't share the Facebook with this data with Facebook? If the EU can bring that law, and we are saying that no, by the way, WhatsApp is well protected, they can't share your bank details. The Facebook as a company has already ensured in the European Union a certain level of protection which protects your privacy. Now, is India inferior and we can't bring in the same level of protection? Is first question. Because it's not that
that has to be done by Parliament. That has to be done by Parliament. A law has to be enacted by Parliament, and there the Congress and the BJP need to be on the same page. Okay.
I'll just take 2 seconds. So the first issue is...
Okay, Dr. Ajay Kumar wants to...
So the first question is, why can't we bring in the same standards of privacy? Indians should have the same standards of privacy like any European Union citizen first. There's no debate on that. The second aspect is that I agree with Pawan that your data, suppose Amazon comes online and says Amazon is on WhatsApp and you start transacting business. Paytm is on WhatsApp. Yes Bank is on WhatsApp. Then that detail is available. So to say that detail is not available is not only partial, it's inaccurate. The question again is, you can glean from metadata your transaction, your list of friends.
No, Gaurav,
then you can micro-target for the political purposes.
I think this is,
then they will send that data for the business
track.
analysts. We have been on that road earlier.
Oh, absolutely. Before I come to Saira, Vaibhav, if I read out to you, it's not just information on your mobile, but details like hardware, signal, battery life, information that will automatically be collected, includes activity, how long you interact with others, your log file, your calls, your status, your group info, profile pic.
Right.
Are we comfortable with this, Vaibhav?
we're not absolutely, and Gaurav, let me tell you this from my experience, years of participation with the European Commission when the GDPR was in the making. Pawanji was also there. First law BJP enacted in 2000, it took us 20 years to come back and issue a data privacy bill. And for the sake of the parliament and for sake of Ajoy ji, who's my worthy friend, I really appreciate him. The JPC on IT, information technology, is headed by Dr. Shashi Tharoor himself. What stops them from bringing such a law or from introducing such a discussion in the parliament or in the public at large? Sitting on TV channels and doing a press interview and doing politics over it and cornering the government gives you no fruit at all, except that India today wants to see action. Modi government is in power today because we've done action. Now, yes. Can the JPC under Dr. Shashi Tharoor do some action at all? That's very doubtful of its own self. Because the way Congress has worked in the past 20 years. That's
the point. We don't want a Congress versus BJP, left versus right on this. We want a parliament to come together, put their heads together, talk to experts and quickly have a law so that foreign firms, these big tech companies cannot take India for a ride. There is an impression they appear to be doing so, Saira. Would you be comfortable with all the information on your mobile phone just being taken by the information that they automatically collect, as they say, and that devil lies in the details, Saira?
Absolutely, Gaurav. For example, now it's time that the government prioritizes on the Personal Data Protection Bill 2019. There's a joint parliamentary committee that tabled, this important bill. However, it's not been passed. So we need to understand the government whether they're serious about maintaining the privacy of the common citizen, or are they going to bow down to the big social media
JPC,
giants just because they use these social media giants. So I think we really need to expedite this and ensure that the government protects the individual right to privacy as well as liberty for every citizen. That is of utmost priority and concern here.
Okay. Pawan Dugal, if I may bring you in quickly, because I want the end user to know what exactly is happening. You've read the fine print. You've read the privacy policy. When, for example, Amazon or other companies may also have access to all my information when it comes to debit card, credit card. Why is WhatsApp having that information different and more serious, sir?
Well, the reason is WhatsApp doesn't appear to be complying with Indian law. That's what the documents say. The privacy policy is in gross violation of the IT rules 2011. Also, they don't even disclose in the privacy policy even a cent of what kind of reasonable security practices and procedures they are going to adopt so as to protect the cyber security of the data that they are going to be exchanging. The Indian law says, look, if you're dealing with sensitive personal data like financial records, transaction details, then you have to give in an additional layers of compliances, which is primarily to ensure that the said data is not unauthorizedly used, accessed, shared, or disseminated in any manner whatsoever. Now, none of these compliances are in place. We don't even know how intermediary, WhatsApp is complying with the IT Act, because the IT Act under Section 79 wants this particular intermediary to exercise due diligence and do with various compliances. Now, we have none of those. On the contrary, we have a real threat. Look, come and join, come and jump into the well of fire. If you don't jump, please exit. Now, I don't think this kind of a permission is permitted under Indian law. The Indian law says, look, if a person does not want to give you the permission, so be it. He will be entitled to not give you the permission and still continue using your services. You cannot unilaterally withdraw the same. And if you have done the same, I think you need to face the consequences. The political will is what's most important. The government needs to stand up and say, look, I can now come up tomorrow morning.
Vaibhav, that's the point. It's the political will.
87.
Yes.
And trust me, Gaurav,
absolutely. And Saira Shah Halim says that because the government, because the BJP may have benefited from whether it's Facebook or WhatsApp in terms of elections, there appears to be reluctance, according to Saira, to rein in these big tech companies.
No, Gaurav, let me assure you, from the government perspective, we are just another political party, just another group of people, individuals who are accessing communication over WhatsApp, and that's it. Our rallies get crowded. That's not WhatsApp. That's people in hard flesh and warm bodies. So that's not right. But let me tell you that the government is absolutely at the highest of levels, is absolutely committed to protecting the people of country, and thus all the actions speak louder than what we talk. And that's why I'm not talking about and boasting about what my government has done. That's all I'm saying, that let's wait and watch. And I'm sure that under Dr. Shashi Tharoor, the JPC will come up with something, and the Congress will not do politics on this and allow the ruling government of the day to do justice to politics, which is do justice to the country. And that's what the aim is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, Dr. Ajay Kumar, that's a fair expectation, because this is something that affects all Indians, and perhaps, across the political spectrum, they need to come together and ensure that Indian interests are best protected, Dr. Kumar.
No, in fact, Gaurav, I would just remind my good friend Vaibhav that the fact is that Justice Sri Krishna's recommendations should be accepted in total. In fact, Dr. Tharoor and the team don't want those amendments to be done. So we would request, I hope the government would, and it's not Congress, BJP, we would support the government's wisdom if they stick to what is in the interest of the Indian citizen. And that's what we've been insisting. There were been provisions, attempts to dilute the privacy law, and that is not from our side. Vaibhav, so you guys have to accept that. We want the privacy law to be tougher, stronger, and more protective. There were attempts to dilute Justice Sri Krishna's recommendation. Let's go by his recommendations fully, and we will ensure that that gets passed. Now the ball is in the government's court. We have totally with what the initial recommendations were for ensuring proper protection.
That would simply be the best, but
absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. But, we don't tell our viewers what they must do in this state. We've given them options, we've given them facts, but let me just do a straw poll, and, 4 guests of mine on the broadcast. Pawan Duggal, starting with you. On the 8th of February, since that's the deadline that WhatsApp has given, it says either accept or perhaps choose to leave. What would you do, sir?
I will leave much before 8th of February. Already I have transmigrated onto a more secure, more robust and private platform like Signal. I think that's what the direction that Indians have to look at. We should not be in a position to mortgage our privacy to repent for a lifetime, because the consequences can be bizarre. We can become victims of criminal activities, and more significantly, our privacy can be evaporated for a lifetime. So I think it's time for Indians to make a solid, concrete shift towards a more secure, more private platform, which can more protect and safeguard your privacy.
Absolutely second that.
Saira Shah Halim, your view.
See, I would bide time and see the steps that the government is taking with regards to individual privacy and right to liberty, and then probably I'll switch on to some other mode. So we are waiting for the government to expedite this matter on privacy, and it's a wait and watch scenario, because data can be two types, personal data as well as non-personal data. So right now the citizens are concerned mainly about the personal data, the location, their banking details and other sensitive details that that can be shared by a third party. And I think it's a total invasion of our privacy, and the government must take this up with utmost priority.
Dr. Ajay Kumar, 30 seconds on the broadcast. But
so, like Pawan said, I've downloaded Signal, downloaded Telegram. Definitely won't like to. I have not signed up on what WhatsApp has been asking. We live in strange times. I hope that the government brings on a strong protection bill, and we'll ensure that. And I hope Vaibhav conveys this message, and we will then readily not get back into WhatsApp without having signed that document.
Absolutely.
Okay. Vaibhav, closing comments, 30 seconds. 3 panelists. Okay, no, Saira says she'll wait and watch. The other 2 say they'd prefer to shift to a safer platform, better encrypted platform, especially one that's not going to sell their information elsewhere. Vaibhav, your view.
Okay. First of all, nation first. Secondly, let's not give in to capitalism just because one company, we are getting used to it. Let's try and explore other options of communication, and let's try and meet often in warm bodies. Of course, that will be a better way to communicate. But as far as digital is concerned, let's explore other options. As far as the government is concerned, Saira ji and Pawan ji, I assure you, Ajoy ji and me, our parties will not let you down as citizens, as you vested your trust in us, the political parties per se, for the governance perspective. There is no politics in it, but we will work together to find a better option on GDPR, for example. And I'm 100% sure for a change, the JPC in IT is absolutely donned with intellectuals, and people like me and Ajoy will ensure that we pass on the messages relevant to our relevant people, and we will work towards it to make India a more secure place, both at the borders and on the digital front.
Heartening words, but do remember, it's a race against time. It's a race against time for the simple reason that you cannot have a company that comes into your country and then, as Pawan Duggal says, put a gun to your head and say either accept my rules or get out of my platform.
Absolutely.
Because samvad or communication, as they say, has to be a two-way street. We take no decisions. We give you all sides of the story. You decide what's in the best interest for you and, of course, for our country. But Pawan Duggal, Dr. Ajay Kumar, Vaibhav and Saira Shah Harim, as always, many thanks for joining me here on this India First debate.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.